You said to join or we continue? Okay. So what topic we discussed yesterday?
Multi-level inheritance.
Okay. And so yeah, anyone installed Java? Sorry, not Java. Sorry, Eclipse. Manoj, did you install Eclipse? Hi, Manoj.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Okay. So during installation, anyone is getting a problem? Anyone installed Eclipse software? Anyone are able to create a project? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So today we'll discuss anyone knows what is the reason like why Java is not supporting multiple inheritance?
To avoid the indicated error.
To avoid ambiguity. Okay. Hmm. So Java is not supporting multiple.
To avoid the indicated problem.
Yeah. And one more thing, the main agenda if any if any classes in the project in the project any classes we are going to create, so it doesn't allow you to extend a more than one class. So the options will allow our class extends a more than one class. No, it is not going to allow us to. It is not going to allow us to extend more than one class, right? So, but indirectly, like some other inheritance we can assume indirectly to using interfaces. So, by using interface, yeah. So our class can implement multiple interfaces, right? So our
ಮಗ
class we
ಒಂದು
can implement
ಮಗ
multiple
ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ
interfaces.
ತಡಿ
So
9:30ಗೆ
that can
ಕ್ಲಾಸ್
be
ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ.
so before that.
ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ತಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನ.
So before going to that, right, just like why it is not allowing to extend a more than one class. So from today onwards, all the programs like I am going to discuss in all the programs like I am going to discuss in Eclipse only. Okay. So else we have a class means like we can take. Is there any class multi? Just right, multi-level test. It's a dot class file. This is Java file like it is having one show method. It is having the show method and other one is like the multi-two, other having another method as a show method, and we are having a Java file. So we are trying to extend not this one. Multi test. So we are extending. So class is extends multi one and multi two, and then we are creating the object and we are trying to call the method. But earlier, the prior versions, right, for Java. So it is going to show like the ambiguity. It will show when we are calling when my parent class having like my multi-one class having one method and the multi-two class having the same method. In that case, it is going to get ambiguity from 1.5, 1.6. We are getting that message, but from prior, like from 1.7 onwards, simply like it is returning the syntax error. So how we are going to get that one, we'll see. So what is a class? Java, Java C, multi-test dot Java. So it is not allowing us to extend a more than one class. If this is like a child class and it is trying to extend more than one parent, more than one parent, it's not going to allow. It is not going to allow. That is the reason. So indirectly we can use like a interface concept to achieve this one. Okay. So once we start the interface concept, there we will discuss like how come it is going how come we are going to achieve that one. How come we are going to achieve that one. So, so then we have a two pending concepts like one is a static and one is a finite. So, what is a static? What is a finite? Both are keywords or not? Both are keywords or not? Hello, guys, are
Yes,
you able
sir.
to see me? Are you sorry? Are you able to listen me or not? Okay. So now, how we can like declare a static variable? How we can declare a static variable? Okay. Let's say, for example, I'm going to create a one more class here to do that. Static, static test is a static concept. Create main method. So here I'm writing one variable int a equals to 10. So what is a static keyword? Static keyword is basically we are going to use for the mainly for the memory management purpose. So why we are using like mainly for memory management purpose? Like in every project, every class will be having like a common property. Will be having a common properties. So those properties instead of assigning every object, right, we are going to initialize once as a static variable and we can pass that variable for every object. Okay, so means like for example, every employee, if we take every employee, right, every employee will have a company name, correct, right? Let's say for example, we are working on the Cognizant. Okay, so Cognizant is a company. Okay, company name. So under the Cognizant, for example, 60,000 employees are working. For when we are going to create like an employee, right? Every time we are going to create an object, and we are setting the values, right? So that time, every time we need to initialize. We need to initialize the college name. Sorry, not college name, company name. We need to initialize the company name. So in that case, for all these 60,000 employee objects, we need to initialize the company name. So instead of that, right? So each and every property we need, if you are initializing each and every property, we need some memory to initialize that value. So for that purpose, if you make those kind of properties as a static, okay, if you make those kind of properties as a static, we can initialize at once and we can initialize at once and we can reuse that variable. We can reuse that one. We can reuse that one. So we can initialize that one. Okay, so we can initialize and we can reuse that one. So that is nothing but a static, right? So how we are going to achieve, we'll see. Okay, going forward, like you, in the projects and all, right? All the constants like we are making as a static, and we are we are making as a static, and we are initializing the values. uh, and then we are reusing those static properties for, even though like if you are creating like entire like static properties are it will be commonly used for that object. Like for example, I have an employee class means, so how many objects we are going to create, those many objects can be accessed by the static fields, right? So that's why we are going to use a static. So commonly, like one time we are initializing, and means like one time we are initializing that college name or employer name or anything, right? So we have our bank name. So if we take bank name also, so how many accounts we are going to create, we are never bothering, but all the accounts will be tagged under bank name only, right? So in that case, we can define a constant as like a bank name, like HDFC Bank or ICICI Bank or anything. So like that we are going to use. Okay. So in that case, how we are going to use, later we'll see how we can define the constants in the project and how we are going to reuse that. Okay. So now I'm defining int a equal to 10, and now I'm trying to print that I'm trying to print that a inside the main method. So this is nothing but like a what variable it was, instance variable. Instance variable means like we are declaring outside of the method, okay, inside of the class. Okay. So why we are getting an error? Anyone knows?
Like we have to take that class name.
You
No, we
have
have
to
not
take,
mentioned static, sir. No, we have not mentioned static key.
yeah. So this is like a normal variable, right? Can I access this normal variable inside the main method? It's possible, right?
Yeah, for that we need to create object.
For that we need to create object.
Object.
Okay. Without creation of object,
Local variable.
okay. So I created the object. With that object, yes, we are able to access this. But without creation of object, can we access this? Someone is saying something. Then we'll go on and see like what is that. They're trying to. Okay. Why we are unable to access like this?
We need to
This
use
is like a
static key.
Sir,
yeah,
integer is a
yeah,
non-static, right?
yeah. This is a non-static variable. So non-static variables cannot access inside the static context, inside the static context. So that is the reason it is not going to allow, like we are not allowing to, so it cannot make a static reference to the non-static field yet. So if you make this as a static, then we are able to access. Then we are able to access static methods or static variables. Okay, all the static non-static methods. Okay, this is nothing but a static variable, right? And this static variable I can access inside the only static methods. If I see, not only this is like a public static environment, right? So main method is having a static, right? So that can be accessible. So for example, I'm going to write down void test. Can I use same a here? Yes, it is allowing because we need to call, right? The static methods, how we are going to call? With the help of class name. With the help of,
Class name.
what is that method? Just with the help of class name, we can call. Means here we no need to create an object. So directly like static method number, like with the help of class name, we can invoke. So we no need to write down all utility methods. For example, in our projects, right? So if you want to write down any utility method without calling that utility methods, right? Without calling that, right? Like without creation of object, if you want to call any utility methods, we are going to call that test method. Okay. In that case, okay. So in that case, uh, here no need to get that object and all. So no need to create an object and all, and then we are going to invoke the test method. And now, so before main method, I want to execute some statement. Before main method, I want to execute the statement. Then in that case, we are going to use a static block. Static block we are going to use. So how we are going to use a static block? Inside static block. Just run this. So this is nothing but a static block. So before calling the main method, I want to execute any statements. Means then inside static block we can execute the statement. See, basically the output should always display 10, and then later, if you are calling any methods and all, right, any statements and all, then first it starts from the, let's say for example, I'm just writing inside main method. Inside main method, now the control comes to here, it is going to execute, and then it has to execute, it is going to execute the test method, and then it is printing, right. Now I'm going to run this one. Now I'm going to run, and inside a static block, it is going to execute. Inside static block, it is going to execute because before main method, if you want to execute any statements, always a static block it is going to execute. So if there is no static block, then what is the statement? First it has to print. Just remove this. First it has to print the SOP statement, then it has to call the method. Then it has to call the static method and it is going to display a value. Just run this one. So inside main method and then right now I'm using the static block. I'm using the static block. Now I am running this. Before main method it is going to. So actually if you are not writing any main method, so prior to like after Java 7, right? So it is restricting like always when you are running your class, it's required a main method. But earlier, right? So without main method also we are able to compile and we are able to run the classes because of static block. Because of static block from 1.7 onwards, it is asking like strictly main method is required when you want to compile the class. When you want to compile the class, when you want to run the class, the main method is required because so they have made a mandatory when you are writing one class and the class doesn't have a main method, and if you are trying to create an object and getting like if you are trying to call the methods and all, then that time when you use a Java command and when you are trying to run the classes, then it is going to ask a main method is required. It is going to ask like main method is required. Just remove this one and just run this one. So main method is not found. right? So it is going to ask main method is not found. So you need to write down the main method, and this is like a variable level. We are going to use a static, like this is a block level and this is a method level which we are going to use, right? So, but in the real time, how we are going to use? But in the real time, how we are going to use? So before going to that, we'll discuss like a final concept. So final is like a keyword, right? Final is a keyword. So where and all we can use a final? Can we write a final methods?
Yes.
Can we create a final classes?
Yes, we can use, sir.
Yeah. So final is a keyword. Like once we defined a keyword in the variable level, we are not going to change that value. So we'll be getting like compile time error. So once you assign the final value, we are not going to change that. We are not going to change that. So the other one is if you are making a final class, we are not going to extend. We're not going to like final keyword. If you use like a method level, we are not going to override. If you use like a final keyword in the class level, we are not going to extend. So inherit, we are not. It is not possible for inheritance and not possible for override. Right. So if you make a final variable, then it is not possible to change the value. It is not possible to change the value. So just see here the final. So I'm just writing one, right? Now,
You just
what I'm
received.
going to do, what I'm going to do, final, sorry, method I'm going to write down. Now I'm changing the a value to 20. Now I'm trying to change the a value to 20. See what is the error? Cannot be assigned. So I'm trying to change the a value. So it is, say earlier it was a 10 and now I'm trying to change the a value. So it is restricting that. So once you declare as a final, you cannot change that value. You cannot change that value. So it is asking like either you need to remove the quick fix is either you need to remove that variable like in the variable level keyword as a final. So that time it is going to allow. It is not a final variable, right? Normal variable only, right? So we can change the value. Okay. Now if you want to make final class, right? Or else take this as a public class and try to extend here. So I'm trying to extend. Now I'm trying to extend. See. So what is the error? So it is like it is not allowing to inherit. It is not allowing to inherit. So that is the one. And just try for like take a one parent class, child class. try to override the methods in the parent class. Like you just declare as a uh, final and just try to override and see like whether you are able to override it or not. Right. So it's the one. So now, so that is about the final. What is the combination of final and static? The combination of final and static, like we are going to declare a constant that we are not going to change. Then why we are using the static? Because that variable, right? That constant it will be used for entire the class objects. So that's why the combination of final and static keywords, the combination of final and static, we are going to create the constants in the project and we are using it. We are using it entire project. We are using it in entire project. Okay. So branch IFSC code, if you take IFSC code will never change, right? IFSC code will never change, right? In that case, we can take like private static final and string IFSC code equals to some 1 2 3 4. So that it is not going to change, even though like n number of accounts you are going to create, it will be assigned to the same IFSC code. It will be assigned to the same IFSC code. So that's the reason we are taking all the project constants. We are taking all the project constants. So we are taking all the constants. We are taking all the constants, project constants in the. We are making as one file, one Java file. In that Java file, we are defining all the project constants. Okay. So before going to that example, and I have like coming back to the static, right? So at the time of object creation, object creation, at the time of object creation, how many objects I am going to create. So those many times it has to get and increment the value. So for example, if my class, I'm going to create a class object. Okay, let's say for example static concept only here. Okay, so when I'm calling this, when I'm going to create an object for every time, then it has to know, like for example, the entire day, how many times the request comes to the static concept class, how many times that object has been created, I want to do. In that case, what we have to do? Hmm. In that case, what we have to do? So in that case, what we have to do now? So create one counter variable and assign to 0. And now what we are going to do? We are going to write down the constructor. So we're going to write down the constructor. So we are going to write down the constructor, and inside the constructor I'm going to increment the counter value. I'm going to increment the plus plus means, so initially it was 0. When I'm going to create an object, every time the constructor is going to invoke, right? Every time the constructor is going to invoke, now I'm going to create object three, static concept. I'm going to create an object. Just try to wait and then make it as 2, 3, 4. In this case, right, every like we are creating the 4 objects. We are creating the 4 objects, right? So in that time, first time if I'm creating the object, it has to increment. It has to increment. So second time it has to increment. Okay, second time, first time it was a 0 and it has to increment, plus plus means 1 it has to print, and that value will be now is going to execute. Second object we are going to create. So this is nothing but a constructor. Again, it comes to now the counter value is 1. Now it is going to increment. It is going to change to 2. So 3 and 4. So it has to print 1, 2, 3, 4. It has to print 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many objects we are going to create? We are going to create a 4 objects and it has to print 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the reason. So that is the reason it has to print each and every constructor invoke. It has to increment the value and it has to print the counter value. So just print that counter value. Just print that counter value. So now we printed the counter value. So when I'm running this, it has to execute. So just run this one. So don't concentrate on remaining output inside static block and or inside main method 10. So every time when I'm going to create an object, okay, just make it set constructor, just run it. So it is going to print. It is going to print 1, right? It is going to print 1, 1, 1, right? So reason why it is like every time we are trying to like first time we are initializing the value and we are incrementing this one, right? So then even though how many objects we are going to create, those many times it is initializing every time. It is initializing every time. The reason why, if you are going to use a non-static properties for each and every object, it is going to take the request from the browser or any like from the scanner, right? Every time it is going to initialize. Objects are separate, okay? Object references are separate. So when you are going to create each and every object, it is going to increment 1, and then if you create like another object, if you use like a non-static variable, so in that case it is like not a class level, right? It is an object level. So that is the reason it is not displaying 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you make this counter as a static, then it is a class level that can be used for all the objects. The counter can be used for the all the objects. So now if you are running this, see it got changed to first time when we are creating this object. First time it is like a 0 and it will increment the count and it will print the counter. And the second time again it goes to the constructor and it increments. So now the value is not going to change. Now value is means it is not initializing again one because it is already the value is there. Now it is incrementing. So static values and all we can change. Okay, we can change it, but final variables we cannot. Final values we cannot change. Okay, now we are changing it to like initially it was 0 when we are creating the first object. It is going to increment, and the second time when we are calling when we are creating the second object, then it is going to increment the count. So earlier it was a 0 for if you are not creating any object. The first object it becomes to 1, and then the second object it becomes to 2. Third object it increments the value as a 3. Like that it is going to print. So by the end of the day I want to know the report like how many objects the entire day how many objects this class is created. Then in that case we are going to use a static and we can get it. So this is like one of the famous interview question. So when we are going to like during the object creation itself, like I want to know how many times the class object has been instantiated, how many times the object has been created. So in that case we require static, and inside the constructor we are going to include because if constructor only the one, right? When object is creates, the default constructor it is going to invoke, right? So that is the reason inside that constructor we are implementing. Okay, got the point? Okay. So now what we are going to do? So we'll take like a simple example how we can define the constants, like combination of static and final. So we have like an account class. We have like an account class, and this account class having the private data members and getters and setters, right? Nothing. So how we are going to generate the getters and setters? Yesterday I show you, right, how we can generate. Right click the project, means right click the class and go to the source and generate getters and setters. Generate getters and setters. So that is a this is a way to generate getters and setters. Now I'm going to create. Okay. Now I created another class as account constants. See, account constants is the class. Account constants is the class. So why I took all the constants as like a capital? Is the coding standard or not? See, it is like all the constants, all the variables starts with a small, and if it is like the first name, string first, we have to write down like this: string first. So all the properties we have to write down like this. So when you are writing like constants, when you are writing the constants, all the constants should be capital. All the constants should be capital. So for example, we are using some we are using account class. So based on the runtime status, I'm going to check and I'm going to validate. Okay. So so now I'm calling static variables. How we can call, like by using the class name dot field name. So then automatically we'll get the value, right? So this is like active. If I'm passing active name, the variable name automatically will get the value. So inactive, and then logged. Okay. So now based on the condition, I want to do the validation. See here. So now, so we are creating the account object. We are creating the account object. So you know, right? Account class is coming from here. So we are creating the account object and we are creating the scanner class. We are entering the account number and then we are storing that account number into the local variable, and we are entering the account name, and that name, whatever the keyboard, in the keyboard we are entering the account name, that name we are storing into the string account name and account status. So based on the status only, like I want to display the results. You are I want to display some SOP statements. Okay. Now I am going to, like whatever the runtime I'm passing the values, right? All the values I am setting into account object with the help of setter method. So with the help of setter method we can set the values, right? This is not a new code, no? Yesterday also we set the values as a relation we explained, right? So as a relation we explained, right? So now, so whatever the values we are reading from the console, those values we are assigning into one local variable, because see, directly I can set a phone number as like 1 2 3 4 5 for example. In that case, okay, a phone number is like a user, right? Okay. So now I can pass like 1 2 3 4 5 7. So in that case, okay, in that case every dry run you have to change your values. Your code is like your code is like we are upcoding the values. Your code is not a dynamic. Your code is not a dynamic, means your code is not ready to take the dynamic values. Okay, so that is the reason, like we are using the scanner class, and every time we are storing in, if you enter the account number in the console, we are storing into that account number here, and we are passing here that account number. So account dot AC dot set account name. Account name. Account name is nothing but like once you enter here account name, right? That will be we are reading through scanner class and we are storing into this variable. And we are entering the account status. We are entering the account status. So that status we are storing into account status string and then we are passing to here. So now we are going to check first we will see the results. Done. So now we are going to see why I didn't discuss the uh, the control statements, right? So when the requirement comes, like maybe like we'll be discussing the for loop, maybe and what is that concept like multi-threading somewhere in the while loop we'll be using the collections. That's the reason, like specifically I'm not explaining it. Okay, so we are going to check. We are going to check here. So if account, okay, account is an object, right? The runtime the run in the projects and all, if you want to check any conditions, right? So we are going to check like this only. We are going to check like this only. Okay. So simply not like we are not going to check if a value is greater than 5, then allow, then else block it is going to execute, not like that. So in the conditions, if you want to going to check in the going forward, like the same way we are going to check. AC is nothing but like a account object. So already the account object is holding account number, account name, and account status, right? So in that AC dot get status. So we already set the status. Based on the status, I want to display the results. Based on the status, I want to proceed with the request. So AC dot account status dot equals. So equals is the method. It is coming from where? String class. It is coming from the string class.
So,
And what is the return type of equals? Boolean, either true or false. Okay. So now, whatever the status we are passing in the runtime, whatever the status we are passing here in the keyboard, it is going to check account ac dot get status dot equals of account constant active. See how I am reading this. See, account constant is the class, right? This is like a static variable. This is like a static variable. Then why we are involving the final here?
You
Those
just
are the
received a
constants, right? See, no matter how many accounts you are going to create, for every account, we are going to pass this status, right? Either active or inactive or blocked. So that is the reason we are making these properties as a static, then y as a final. Then y as a final because this is not going to change, right? This is active, see, active, inactive, locked, or like a suspicious account. Like for example, you lost the code, you are going to block the account, right? So we can write one more field as a block. Okay, one more property as public static final and string block. Okay, block, and we are going to give value as a block. So in that case, so if you lost any con and then if you want to if you want to change your account status from active to inactive or blocked. Okay, so in that case, when we are going to use blocked and when we are going to use inactive. Second. So here, so here we are going to write down all the properties. Okay, why we are writing as like a final, why we are writing as a static, right? Okay, what we are discussing. So when we are going to use for the inactive, when we are going to use for blocked. Like for example, you created one account, and so you are not going to use that account. After 2 years, it is going to move to active to inactive status. For example, you are using account, you lost any debit card, right? In that case, directly you are calling to the bank people, and they are going to block your account or lock your account, right? So they are going to lock your account in that case. So they like the person who got the debit card, right? They cannot able to do the transaction. They cannot able to do the transaction. For example, that card is having tap facility. So tap facility without PIN, right? It is allowing, right? So they can do some minimum transaction, 2,000, 3,000, right? They can tap and they can use for every merchant. Okay. For every merchant they can go and they can tap and they can use some amount, right? Not for the thousands, like not in the lakhs. Okay, but a tap is allowing based on the bank picture, like it is allowing some 3,000 or 2,000, 5,000. So it will allow like tap. So when you lost your card, then so if someone is getting that card and that tap is enabled, tap is means Wi-Fi, right? That symbol, Wi-Fi symbol, it will be there, right? So when you tap that card into a merchant, then without asking PIN, it is going to do the it proceeds for the transaction, right? So in such cases, directly we can call to the bank and we can block our card or we can lock our card, anything. Okay. So how many accounts you are going to create? How many accounts you are going to create? Those many accounts. How many accounts you are going to create? Those many accounts we can
In a
we can we can use the same properties, right? So common properties. These are the common properties, and that too, these values will never going to change. These constants will never going to change. That's the reason we are making combination of static and public. So once you join into the any project, for every project we are going to maintain the constants. We are going to maintain the constants. Okay. Now come back to this. So it's a get status dot equals account constant dot active, right? Account constant dot active. So then in that is the case, your account is active. So if I'm passing active, then it is going to execute active. So if I'm passing inactive, else if condition. So it is going to check inactive if you pass, then first statement it comes, and what is the value it is having inactive. So inactive dot equals of inactive dot equals of the constant. Like for example, I am passing here this account status is having active, right? The account status is having active. So in that case, now what is the property here? What is the property here for the active? The value is active. So then it reads the property. It reads the property. Accounts constants dot active is nothing but it is going to return active. So this line it is going to print like it is going to give here active and and this logic is going to return active only. Means this property. So active dot equals of active. Yes. So condition satisfied. It is a equal, right? So that is the reason it is going to come inside the if condition. It is going to print your account is active. Your account is active. So now, if I am passing inactive, so what is the value here? Just try to take it here. Okay. But in the runtime, I am passing here as an active. Then first if condition it is going to check active dot equals of inactive no. Then it comes under else if condition. Active dot equals of inactive yes. Then it is going to print your account is active. Your account is active. It is going to print. Clear? So now because here in the runtime Okay, so in the runtime you need to pass inactive. The runtime you need to pass. Okay, in the runtime you need to pass inactive. So in this case, then it will come to here account.getStatus. Yes, the value it is going to return here inactive, and it is going to read the property like the value of this property is inactive. In that case, it is going to print your account is inactive. If you are passing lock, if you are passing the command prompt lock, then so it is going to check log dot active, log dot the status like status is log. Okay, it is going to check dot equals of log no, right? It is not satisfied. It is going to return a false. Then it comes to the else if. Then so this is like log dot inactive. Like what is the value of this constant is inactive. So in that case, both values are not matching. So then it is not going to print this one. Then it comes to else if. It comes to here, yes, it is matching. Then it is going to print your account is locked. Then if I am passing here blocked, right? So in that case, this blocked constant is not listed in account constant. There is no value, and even in the logic we are not writing. So in the in the else block we are going to write down like in the else block we are listing the status is not listed in our bank. Simply just exited at else block. Okay. So just now you understood this program, right? Right? So this is why we are explaining this, right? This simple else and this and all, because to read how we are reading the constants in the project, how we are reading the constants in the project process, we are using it. Now, now what we are going to do? So we are running the program and then we'll see the output. So it is asking the account number as 1234. Let's do 1234. Account name as Ajay. Account
You
status is
just received a
active.
text message. You just received a
It is
text
going to return
message.
your account is active. So it is
You
going to
just
return
received a
this
text
one only, right?
message. You just
The console it is going to return this one only because we have provided active as a status. So here we are not checking the condition based on account number or account name. Always we are checking the status, like we are checking the condition based on the status only. So that's why it is returning like active status. Active one we are going to enter the account status. Whatever the account number we enter, then it checks. So here the value it is assigned to active, and it is going to check dc.getStatus dot equals of account constant dot active. So it is matching. Then it is returning that. Okay. Just one more time you run this. Run this. So go to here. So some error is there. Phone number and phone name I am giving as an Ajay and inactive. Your account is inactive. It is going to print. So I'm giving the constant as like in the status in the runtime. The runtime is at the time of execution we are giving a status as inactive. Then it is going to print your account is inactive. So like this we are going to use the constants. Like this we are going to use the constants. Just run this. Okay. And the status I'm giving. What is the status here? Log code, right? So your account is locked. So other than that, if I am passing, yeah. So status is not listed in the bank. So for example, simply it is printing because all these three conditions it is going to check. It is not matching, then directly it comes to the else block and it is printing. It is not listed. It is not listed. Okay. So here, like this, we are going to like this. We can use the constants in the project. Okay. Every project will have definitely the constants file. One time we are declaring these constants and we are reusing those constants for entire project, okay, entire projects we are going to define the constants, right? So each and every modules also we can define one constant file so that it separates each and every module we can separate a constant file and then we can read those constants. So just run this one, your account number, okay. Now value the account name I'm giving Ajay and then I'm giving active. But active is listed in the bank, right? The active is listed in the constants. The active is listed in the constant, right? Why it is not printing? Earlier it was printing. Your account is active. Hmm.
A is capital.
Yeah, A is a capital because so the
Okay,
equals method
then.
always check for the see. Actually, we have ASCII values for the characters, right? So capital A it starts from 65, right? Yeah. But here we are defining small a. Small a it starts from some I think 96. Okay. From here it is going to check both are not equal. So that in the case if you want in that case see actually the end user doesn't know like these constants and all we are reading from the constants file only, but user doesn't have access to enter in the form itself they cannot active this state, they cannot change this status and all, right? User doesn't have a access like authority to change this status, but simply like if he is having access and if he is entering instead of A as a spot, output. So in that vehicle ignore it doesn't check the properties, right? So it doesn't check like whether you are entering the uh, like a camel case check. Camel case like it is not going to check like whether you are entering the A as a capital, B as a capital, C as a capital. It is going to check whether you are entering the exact character or not. Gmail also, right? When you are logging, it, when you are trying to create a email, like if you are giving a capital,
You just
after
received.
that if you are trying to give username as a small, then it won't allow, like it will allow, right? The same way. So now I am giving A as a capital. It is displaying now because we use the equal ignore case method and it is going to display. Now it is going to display what? Your account is active. Your account is active. So like this, we are going to use the constants in the projects. Okay. So just try to practice and see how we can define the constants. It's like not only these can not only for the account specific. Every class, like every project will have a constant. Every project will have a constant. If you take a college, okay. So for the college, right, will be name will be the constant, right? College name will be the constant. College address will be the constant, and then how we can define okay inside the college, okay, and if you take streams. So what are the streams they are going to support? Like ECE, CSC, EEE, mechanical, civil, all these kind of branches. So branch we can name it as like a constant, right? And if that civil branch is having some 60 students, and the 60 students at one time we are initializing the value, static value, or final value, and we are passing directly when we are going to create an object, right? That time we are setting the values like this. So one time we are initializing and we are using. So in that case, all when I'm creating all the 60 class students, 60 students, right? So every time you don't need to pass the branch as a civil, right? So like that, we can use a static. So the other one, classrooms, 101, 102, first floor is 108. So in the first floor we have a 8 classrooms. Then we can define those classrooms as a static and we can use. So this branch, so like for example, first year civil civil students should be allocated to so and so classroom. So like that we can use. Clear? Yes, clear or
Yes,
not?
sir.
Or- Okay. So that's all about today's class. Just practice the static and final. And if you have any doubts, yeah, you can ask me. So two guys are missing, right? Today's class. Okay. So fine, guys. Like we'll wind up the class. Good night.
Bye, sir.
Good night.